First concrete question is Cambridge Analytica an isolated case, or would you say it's the top of the iceberg?
Maybe you have less control or no control about your own company for the moment, because you have to apologize now. I think in total you apologize now 15 or 16 times the last decade. In 2003 you started. Every year you have one or other wrongdoing or problem with Facebook, and you have to face the reality and to say sorry and to say that you're going to fix it. Last year I think it was twice that you apologized, and this year 3 times already, and we are still in the month of May, so it's a little bit early in the year.
We have a basic responsibility to protect people's data, and if we can't do that, then we don't deserve to have the opportunity to serve people.
A company that wields the power that Facebook does needs to be at least 2 things: competent and responsible. In this video, we're going to go through examples that show how Facebook is almost definitely the exact opposite. Let's start with examples of Facebook's incompetence. In 2013, Facebook admitted to a data breach that exposed the emails and phone numbers of over 6 million users. Later that year, a white hat hacker tried to report a vulnerability. After being ignored by Facebook's support team, he hacked Mark's account and posted directly to his wall. In the same year, a bug in the Facebook Graph API meant that whenever a user gave consent for an app to use the user's data, then all of the user's friends would automatically give the same consent. In 2018, the famous Cambridge Analytica scandal was tried, and Facebook was fined $5 billion US. In May of the same year, another 14 million users had their private posts leaked. Another breach in September exposed up to 50 million user accounts. Then in December of 2018, a bug in the code exposed the photos of 6.8 million users. In April of 2019, Facebook exposed another 540 million user accounts. In September of 2019, they leaked another 419 user accounts. Then in December of 2019, 267 million were made available on the dark web. And possibly the most alarming case is this.
More problems for Facebook. The social media giant now admits it have failed to properly mask the passwords of hundreds of millions of its users. Facebook says the passwords were stored in an internal database that its workers were able to access. The company says it will notify Facebook and Instagram users if their passwords were affected.
So, it was found that Facebook had been storing up to 600 million passwords in unhashed, unsalted, and unencrypted plaintext in a database since 2010. This means that all of these passwords were instantly available to developers and staff members, and who's to say that this database was never compromised by criminals or foreign actors? Now, all of the cases so far have been instances where Facebook made mistakes, demonstrated negligence, or incompetence. But Facebook isn't just incompetent, it smears its opponents, purposely misuses user data, and it repeatedly lies to its users, the courts, and the legislature.
We have never and will not make decisions about what content is allowed or how we do ranking on the basis of a political orientation.
In 2007, Facebook included a feature called Beacon.
When a Facebook user bought his wife a diamond ring online, the surprise was ruined because Beacon notified all his friends and his wife about it on Facebook. With stories like that, criticism of Beacon began to build. But Zuckerberg dug in his heels until he had a full-blown PR disaster on his hands, including petitions and bloggers writing obituaries.
In 2011, the USA Today found that Facebook used cookies to track members and non-members all across the internet. These profiles are now being referred to as shadow profiles.
There was the question of how Facebook stores data, especially of people who aren't even on Facebook, otherwise known as their shadow profiles.
How can non-users stop Facebook collecting their data? And what do you do with the non-Facebook data? Do you commercialize it? And given you do that, is it morally acceptable, do you think, in your opinion, to collect non-Facebook users' data without them knowing what you do with it?
And Zuckerberg nearly concluded without even mentioning these.
Is there anything else here?
Shadow profiles. Shadow profiles.
He didn't seem to want to talk about shadow profiles at all, and changed the subject pretty quickly.
If you're not a Facebook user, how do you stop that data being transferred?
On a security side, we think it's important to keep it to protect people in our community. Were there any other themes that we want to get through? I mean, there's what's
In 2011, before Google pledged to launch its own social networking platform, Google+, in July, Facebook contacted a PR firm called Burson Marsteller. The PR firm emailed journalists and bloggers asking them to allege that Google was secretly collecting and profiting off user data. Eventually, a whistleblower forced Facebook to admit wrongdoing. Later that year, the FTC charged Facebook for misleading users to think that Facebook is able to keep their data private, while at the same time allowing their data to be repeatedly shared and made public. In 2013, Facebook invested billions of dollars into uplifting the networking infrastructure of countries in Africa, but this investment has come under serious scrutiny.
Facebook announced the Internet.org initiative in 2013 and has teamed up with telecom operators in 19 countries across Latin America, Asia, and Africa. The app offers low data access to a small collection of sites offering job listings, sports scores, and, of course, a simplified version of Facebook and Messenger. But it only allows users to browse through a limited number of websites. Instead of Google, for example, Internet.org consumers in Indonesia have to use another search engine called ask.com, and if they click through to external websites, they are prompted to pay for data.
Facebook is a publicly traded company, and as a result, they need to constantly grow their user base every day. This project was promoted as an act of philanthropy, but it's hard not to think that the move could be a means of accessing an untapped market of users. Additionally, Facebook would have total control of what these people are and are not allowed to access, as well as the ability to enforce net neutrality and monitor people in a way that cannot be done in first world countries. More than 60 NGOs and other organizations have signed an open letter to Facebook with a myriad of criticism. In 2016, Apple suspended Facebook's developer license and banned several of its developer apps. The developer license is a special license that allows employees of Facebook to deploy applications to the App Store without being approved by Apple moderators. An app called Facebook Research was deployed using this loophole, and for years it had been harvesting users' app history, private messages, videos, pictures, emails, web browsing history, and search history. In 2018, internal documents leaked to the New York Times.
To a new report in the New York Times, for years, Facebook struck deals to share users' personal data with more than 150 companies, including Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon. Among the allegations in the report, Facebook allowed Spotify, Netflix, and the Royal Bank of Canada to read, write, and delete users' private messages. Amazon was able to obtain users' names and contact information through their friends. And Microsoft's Bing was able to see the names of virtually all Facebook users' friends without consent.
We have a basic responsibility to protect people's data, and if we can't do that, then we don't deserve to have the opportunity to serve people.
The report showed that Facebook shared user data as leverage to influence the decisions of big companies so that Facebook could maintain its power. In December of 2020, Apple released details of its plans to implement tougher privacy policies on its devices.
The fact is that an interconnected ecosystem of companies and data brokers, of purveyors of fake news and peddlers of division, of trackers and hucksters just looking to make a quick buck, is more present in our lives than it has ever been. And it has never been so clear how it degrades our fundamental right to privacy first and our social fabric by consequence. As I've said before, if we accept as normal and unavoidable that everything in our lives can be aggregated and sold, then we lose so much more than data. We lose the freedom to be human.
Facebook is stepping up its criticism of Apple's ad tracking and privacy changes. It's running newspaper ads to do that. The social network saying it is, quote, standing up to Apple for small businesses everywhere, claiming that Apple's changes will be devastating to them and limit businesses' ability to run personalized ads and to reach their customers effectively. Apple striking back in defense of its changes, saying, quote, it's a simple matter of standing up for our users.
Apple's new policies would require apps to notify users and ask for explicit consent every time an app wanted to track a user across other apps or websites. In response, Facebook launched a smear campaign, claiming that they stand up for small businesses and that the purpose of the privacy changes were to destroy them. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a foundation for digital rights across the world, has mocked Facebook's attempts to smear Apple and called them laughable.
Breaking right now, Reuters reporting New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has ordered 2 state agencies to investigate a report that Facebook may be accessing far more personal information from smartphone users, including health and other sensitive data than had previously been known.
In 2019, it was found that several third-party apps were sharing their highly sensitive data with Facebook. They found that Realtor.com sent Facebook the listings which users were viewing. Instant Heart Rate sent heart rate data to Facebook, and Flow sent users' ovulation cycle information. Governor Andrew Cuomo referred to these actions as an outrageous abuse of privacy and ordered an investigation into the issue. This has led to the New York Attorney General giving a statement about Facebook in December of 2020.
By using its vast troves of data and money, Facebook has squashed or hindered what the company perceived as potential threats. They've reduced choices for consumers. They stifled innovation. And they degraded privacy protections for millions of Americans.
The Attorney General led 48 states in filing an antitrust lawsuit against Facebook, and the Federal Trade Commission has joined the cause after filing a separate lawsuit of similar purpose. In the case of Facebook, their formula for maintaining power is simple. Buy off every competing platform, and if the owners refuse to sell, then use your vast resources to copy their technology and use the leverage you have over other companies to isolate their business and strong-arm them into a sale.
Prior to acquiring Instagram, Facebook began developing a similar product called Facebook Camera. Instagram's founder seemed to think that was a threat. He confided in an investor at the time that he feared you would go into, quote, destroy mode if he didn't sell Instagram to you. So let's just recap. Facebook cloned a popular product, approached the company you identified as a competitive threat, and told them that if they didn't let you buy them up, there would be consequences.
A quick Google search reveals that Facebook has actually acquired more than 80 platforms in the last decade. It's obvious that the role that social media plays in society is important, but why exactly?
Remember, economic and political power cannot be separated because dominant corporations gain political influence over how markets are organized, maintained, and enforced, which enlarges their economic power further. One of the original goals of the antitrust laws was to prevent this.
Any critically thinking individual knows that the hearts and minds of people at scale is determined by the information that is put in front of them and by how that information is delivered. The more that we allow corporations like Facebook to consolidate power, the more those corporations decide what we're allowed to think and feel. In 2011, progressive people of America were marching on the corners of Wall Street, demanding that the billionaires of the world be stripped of everything that they own. In 2021, the top priorities seem to be gender pronouns, identity politics, and cancel culture. The people no longer seem to fight the oligarchies of the world. Instead, the algorithms, moderators, and the media have divided the nations and have made the people fight themselves.
My last point is on a more personal note. I really think we have a big problem here. And it's not solved by saying we're going to fix it ourselves. And you have to ask yourself how you will be remembered. As one of the 3 big internet giants, together with Steve Jobs, I should say, and Bill Gates, who have enriched our world and our societies. Or on the other hand, in fact, a genius who created a digital monster that is destroying our democracies and our societies for the moment. That's a question that you have to put yourself for yourself.
Thanks for watching. We're a new channel, so please like and subscribe to support us.